All right, guys, welcome back. This is the FPF Junior Podcast. My name is Brent Blocken. I'm joined once again by the main man, Simon Brent.
How's it going?
Going pretty good. And then Master Control, instead of Chapman, this week we have the main man, Eagle.
They probably don't know who I am, so...
No, they've never seen you before.
No, never.
That's true. Well, you kind of look like you should be an FPF Junior. But
I was about to say the same thing.
I love you, brother. I love you. So again, guys, welcome back again. It's the final podcast of the season. So
yes, there's only next weekend. The weekend coming up is the first set of finals.
Yep.
And then the first set of playoffs, and the finals are on Wednesday. So there will be no more podcasts after this one.
Aren't finals Thursday?
Yes. No, I think they were moved to Wednesday, but I'm not 100% confirmed. I believe they're moved to Wednesday.
It's not like you should be knowledgeable in this topic, right?
Well, Eagle, can you look it up real quickly on the?
It says Thursday on the site, but
if it says Thursday on the site, then
Thursday on the site.
It should be on Thursday, but teams will be confirmed as they win this weekend. We will let them know when the game is.
Nevertheless,
100%.
So championship finals are Thursday at 7, 8, and 9 o'clock at Stade de Montréal.
Exactly. Nevertheless, the finals will be coming up this coming week, so we'll be good to go either way.
Yeah.
All right, so again, playoffs are coming up. I would use my usual Jim Mora playoffs. Tone of voice. Yeah.
Playoffs?
You get it. Thank you. You know what? We don't need Chapman anymore. Because when I have bust that out in the winter, he's like, playoffs?
We're talking about playoffs?
Yeah, the kids don't get that. Now, you know what? The kids do get that, and the parents get it for sure. So, playoffs coming up this weekend. But quickly, before we get to the playoffs, once again, we were at the garage.
Yeah, Rob's garage, technically.
You guys don't call it FPF Studios?
I call it the garage. FPF Studios / the garage. Actually, you know what? I was talking to Rob outside when you guys were doing the A&B podcast. He actually called the FPF Studios as well. But
so it's the FPF Studios? Awesome.
Yeah. We're sticking with that? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right.
We work really hard on the background here. Changes every week. It's a lot of work.
It's true.
A lot of clicking. So, how was the FPF Junior? I know nothing about this league, so
thank you, Eagle,
tell
for
me about
ruining everything.
Obviously, it is a fantastic league. It's the second year we're doing it, and look forward. We should be back this coming winter. It's going to be awesome. It's good times. And I'm still fixated on the ribs that Pease was talking about in the Division E podcast. All right. So okay. Anyway, so let's get down to business. So a couple of big things, obviously, this week besides the playoffs. We have the team MVP awards.
Yes, they will be announced tomorrow in my article. Their article should be coming out probably the afternoon as usual on Thursday. Every team MVP will be announced in the article, and we will be giving out. I believe it's a trophy. It might be a plaque to every player that won the MVP this weekend at their games.
Yeah, black.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I am French.
Yeah. No worries, man. We're not going to hold that against you. It's cool.
I will.
Okay, so let's, instead of obviously talking about the games that happened last week, because, I mean, there were some games.
Yes, there were great games, too.
Yeah, definitely. But instead of doing that, we will talk about each team.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's definitely a way to mention each team. Again, the playoffs are coming up, so each team will be playing over the next couple of days.
So in a way, we're wrapping the season together, like the regular season, and moving on to the playoffs.
We're putting a bow on the regular season and jumping into the playoffs. But before we jump into the playoffs, we will give a quick recap of each team. So to do so, we will start in the freshman division. Obviously, we've got the younger guys first. So we're going to start with the Musketeers. Arguably the class of the division.
Yeah, currently they're 8-0, so they haven't lost a game. They went undefeated all the way. They have a few close games along the way, but overall they were very dominant from the start to the finish. The quarterback, Caden Shaw, has been playing fantastic. The roster overall, you see a lot of guys who have improved throughout the season. You see a lot of guys who stepped up, made some plays. Yep. But I must say, overall, there's no weakness on the team. Defense, offense, everything's good. Everybody's doing their part. And it's something great to see that everybody gets involved and everybody has their role in the team also.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you mentioned with the offense, they scored the most points, 195, and they let in the least amount of points with only 54 For you, Simon, obviously you've had a chance now to see them multiple times, especially with doing scorekeeping and reading the articles. What's the biggest thing that you feel that's made them so successful this season?
I'd say it's a bit of everything. Everybody understands their own role and what they have to do to be successful. So there's no every player on the field at once. All 6 players are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and everybody understands that what I have to do is important towards the team's success. And this is what's most important, is even on defense, everybody's doing their assignment, and it's working really well because everybody's covering what they're supposed to be covering. Same goes for offense. It's not because you're not having the ball that you're not doing your part. And in Musketeers, it really shows in that way that everybody is part of the success of the team.
All right, and obviously you mentioned Caden Shaw, Massimo Mufraj is another player. Who do you think has been the most improved player on that team?
I would probably go with Cam Trickett. He was one of those players that we don't necessarily talked about earlier in the season, but the last few weeks he's been phenomenal. He's been playing really well, having big games, making big plays for his team, big catches. He had an interception week 7 also. I think he has to be the candidate for most improved player this season.
All right. So, and that's the Musketeers. Up next, finishing at 4-4, were the Panthers.
Yes.
Some of the bigger names on our team, obviously. One person in particular is Caleb Perks. They had multiple quarterbacks.
Yep.
Which usually, as you mentioned last week, doesn't always work out in the adult divisions, but in FPF Junior, that's key, especially with a lot of players who kind of finding out it might be their first time playing football, so they're kind of finding out where their niche is, where they fit exactly.
Yep.
So we've seen some guys like Darius Payman, we've seen obviously Kevin Desairs Payne. What, in your opinion, has been the biggest key to that team's success?
The fact that a lot of guys get to play quarterback works really well for them. Their defense has been really good also. They've been keeping games always close. They never really get blown out by Musketeers. I find that it has to be the key to their success is their defense. The offense sometimes doesn't always put out the most points, but when you're only allowed 6 or 12 points, it's not so difficult to stay within the game at every moment. And so their defense has been really driving the team.
All right, fair enough. And who, in your opinion, Simon, do you think has been the most improved player on your team?
There's a few candidates that comes to mind. We have to talk, as you mentioned before, Caleb Perks. There's Phoenix Thomas also. That's one of those candidates out there that's one of the most improved. There's a bunch of names we could throw in there. Massimo Longo has been having a fantastic season as a quarterback for them also. He's one of those players that has been doing a little bit of everything, and he's been performing on both sides of the ball. So I have to say it really comes down to there's more than one possibility here.
Okay, and even maybe someone like Zachary Gabois as well.
Yes, definitely a player who's stepped up in the last few weeks. I'd say he's been playing for a while, but he wasn't necessarily a dominant player earlier in the season. And right now, they game with 2 interceptions a few weeks ago that really showed just how better he got at the game.
All right, so definitely they're coming through on the defensive end. Even their offense, they've had back-to-back weeks where they had 26 points in week 5 and week 7. So both sides of the ball, definitely that team is looking up.
Yep.
And the last team in that division is the Tigers, led by obviously the Swiminian crew, if you will, the Swinhan family, if you will, has been a staple of FPF over the years. The record isn't as good as they want it to be, obviously, but they're a team who, with a bunch of kids who they play hard. They play hard, they're having fun, and that's what FPF Junior is about, having fun. For you, what's been, I guess you could say, what's been the thing that you could take away from their season this year and say that's what they've improved at, and that's what going forward they could build around?
Well, a lot of the guys on the team never played football before, so it's their first experience at playing football. It's FPF Junior in that way is a bit difficult because if you play against experienced players, let's say like the Musketeers, it's very difficult to get going because the game is not very long. It's only 44 minutes. So by the time you get accustomed to the rules and stuff, the game's pretty much over. But the Tigers have been doing really well with the change. They've been a change at quarterback a few weeks ago. They moved Alex Paglioti to receiver instead of quarterback. He's been really good for them as a receiver because he's really, really fast and he's tough to cover for most people. So I think that the Tigers moving on, a lot of the guys learn the game of football, learn to like the sport, learn to love the game of flag, and if they would come back in FPF Junior, let's say this winter, a lot of these guys would become much better players for other teams simply because they know what they're doing now, and they've learned the game throughout these 8 weeks.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the sophomore division quickly. The Yellow Jackets. They're definitely a good team in that division. They have a lot of good playmakers. Garner Ross, Jonathan Yagerman, very strong on both sides of the ball. In your opinion, what has been so successful for the Yellow Jackets this season?
Well, we spoke about the tandem a lot of Charles Presser and John Yagerman, led by the quarterback Garner Ross. But one of the players that doesn't get a lot of attention, a lot of media around him, is their snapper Jesse Dime. He's always that underneath guy that doesn't get a lot of mention, but he gets a lot of targets simply due to the way the pattern works. The guys get open over top, but when it's not there, Garner Ross just doesn't looking for a word is doesn't discard the ball, but he just checks it down to his snapper. Yeah. Jesse Diamond has been making plays. He has 6 touchdowns on the season. It just shows how much, and about 30 receptions, if I'm not mistaken, 31.
28 receptions.
28. So you could see that he's been used a lot in every game, and he's a big part of their offense.
And even defensively as well, coming through for a number of tackles, a number of batted passes. So obviously, the team is going to be a force to be reckoned with come playoff time. Another team is the Hurricanes. They've pretty decent season. They're led by Marco Gentile. They have a good offense, but their defense, at least I think personally, is what's been leading them so far.
Yeah,
what
definitely. They've been a defense first kind of team where they try to keep the score as minimal as possible, and then just covering the spread with their offense. It's their second season in FPF Junior. The first one, the last winter was a bit more difficult for them. They found what really works for them. They run the ball a bit more. They find ways to move the chains in uncharacteristic ways of what we used to know as FPF Junior, but their defense is really in the way with the rusher Brendan Urquhart, who's been fantastic for them. They have a bunch of great players across the board, and it's a really big team. I think they're 12 kids, so everybody plays only one way, and that gets them into positions where nobody's really tired at the end of the game, and it gives them an edge on most teams.
Yeah, definitely a smart way to go about it. What can you tell us about the Dusters?
The Dusters, they had a really slow start to the season. It was new to them. Nobody on the team ever played FPF Junior before. The coach never played FPF before. So they tried to learn all the rules all at once. It was a bit difficult, but after a few weeks, you saw bigger adjustments. They started knowing what works and what doesn't for them. Yeah. And when they had their double header week 6 or week 7, when they won both their games, seeing how they finished at 4-4, winning 2 games in the same week really changed the pace for the team. It turned everything around for them, and last week they had a very dominant win over Hurricanes, and showing how Dusters struggled a little bit early in the season, but now they're a very strong team in FPF in sophomore.
All right, so it's definitely, I think it's fair to say that they're a team who's hitting their stride at exactly the right time. Coming up next is the Wildcats. They're led by one of my personal favorites, Noah Smallwood, who I got a chance to cover in the winter season, and he's brought his strong play over to the spring season. Yeah,
and the exactly opposite of Dusters is Wildcats were one of the hottest team coming into the season with quarterback William Bradford and Jaden Fournette and T-Shawn Nixon. They had a really strong core starting the season. Everybody was afraid of playing the Wildcats because of how dominant all the players look and play. And then, as you can see, the Wildcats are in the bottom 2 at the moment in the division. They struggled a bit later down the stretch, and it just shows that every other team around them got better, and it's not so much that they're downplaying, it's just everybody else around has been playing fantastic, and they're just trying to catch up because a lot of the guys are missing left and right, so it's difficult for them to get chemistry building going in those 8 weeks.
Now, obviously I talked about Noah Smallwood, Tayshawn Hickson, Fournette, even Jaden Fournette, even William Bradford, who definitely he made his debut in the winter season playing solid on both sides of the ball. Who, in your opinion, is another player who teams shouldn't underestimate?
There's one player on the Wildcats that not a lot of people talk about. It's Dean Fleming, who's been playing really well since week 1. He's not the flashiest player the same way that Jaden would be, for instance, when you look at the team, but he's that sure-handed guy underneath that's always open, that makes plays consistently, and he has to be one of the guys that also improved the most ever since the week 1 game.
All right, and the final team rounding out the sophomore division is the Fighting Irish. We talked a few minutes ago about defense of a couple of the teams, namely the Hurricanes. But the Fighting Irish are definitely a team that, on that side of the ball, is personally where I think they excel. What do you think?
Well, I think they have one of the best, if not one of the best, probably the best defense in FPF Junior altogether. But they play really well when it comes down to keeping the score very low. Their offense is not necessarily where they excel, but their defense is so strong that they keep teams to 12, maybe 13 points per game. And all they have to do is just cover the spread with their offense, which is about 12, maybe 14 points. So they don't even have to score 3 times to win a football game, which is very good for them. They have a lot of very strong defensive players on the team, and the way they've been playing so far is it's tough. They made a switch at quarterback, so it's tough for them to try to adjust in late in the season. But the way they've been playing in the last few weeks, it shows that they're going to be one of those teams that you hate to play against in the playoffs, simply due to how strong their defense really is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're coming off of a victory over the Hurricanes this past Sunday, 6-0. I mean,
yep,
there's
exactly.
a lot of teams, whether it's the junior division or the adult division, where if you shut out a team, a lot of teams would love to do that.
Yep.
So we're going to move over now to the varsity division. If you will, where the big boys play. We'll start with the cream of the crop of that division with the Lions.
The Lions have been absolutely dominant most of the season. They had a very good game last week, Sunday against the Wildcats, that they won on the second to last play of the game. But aside from that, they've been honestly dominant most of the way. Everybody would say the same thing. The core is really strong. Everybody on the team has a very specific role, and everybody plays it really well. Their quarterback Evan White has been a two-way monster the whole season, being with 11 interceptions and about 33 passing touchdowns, I believe.
Yeah,
he's a force to be reckoned with. On the flip side, everybody else around the team, you can't pinpoint one player that has not done his role perfectly.
Actually, speaking of White, 36 touchdowns actually. The receivers, being a quarterback yourself, you know how important it is to have some good receivers that you can depend upon. Guys like Jake Applebaum, Jacob Souls, Greg Stopow. How important is it, do you think, the success of Evan White with 36 touchdowns? How important or how big of a role do you feel that his receivers have played in his success and the team's success?
A lot of these receivers, they're very tough to cover, first of all, because they're very, very fast. A snapper, Greg Stopal, is enormous. I think he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's very tough to cover just because of his size, right? So on that end, these receivers make it much easier on the quarterback due to the fact that they create mismatches all over the field. So if you're running, let's say, all the way down the field on a straight fly, and the defender is 10 yards behind you, for the quarterback it's much easier to get the ball over there. So the receivers are making his life much easier. But I take nothing away from Evan. He's been playing really good this year, really great this season.
Okay, and the team you mentioned a few seconds ago, the Voltigeurs, obviously they made the jump from sophomore to varsity, which is, we talked about last week, has been huge.
Definitely.
For you, in your opinion, what has been the key to their success?
Well, they played their first 4 weeks in sophomore, and then they moved into varsity. They added Nassim Negragi week 5 for when they switched to varsity. The team has been playing really well. Their quarterback is playing lights out. Some of the receivers also, as we mentioned last week. Everybody on the team is doing their part, and everybody is really intense when it comes down to football. So they don't lose a single snap because we were just slacking off or whatnot. So they show up, and every snap's important, and the coach is really puts the emphasis on it properly, and the team has been playing really, really.
The emphasis is on the wrong syllable.
Thank you.
It's emphasis.
Thank you. See how Brent didn't say anything about it?
Jerk. Let's get back Chapman.
Yeah, where's Chapman? I liked him better. You wouldn't say anything about it. Anyways.
I got you, brother.
He wouldn't know any better.
Anyways, the way Voltigeurs has been playing, it's very impressive to see them move from sophomore to varsity and still win. They won their first 3 games. They only lost to Lions, and it was on the second to last play of the game where Lions managed to score on 4th down before the Voltigeurs got only 1 play added. So if that matchup comes up again, Voltigeurs against Lions is going to be a great game also. And to see them be able to compete with one of the best teams in FPF Junior and finish within 4 points is very impressive.
All right. Moving on, we have the Mustangs. Now, they're a team offensively. They might have struggled at the beginning of the season, but they've seemed to pick it up as the season's gone along.
Their first 2 weeks, it looked like they didn't know really what they were doing. They were scrambling a bit to figure out what works for them, what doesn't. Their quarterback, Kobe White, found a way to, I think it was week 2, week 3, that 2-point converts are much easier for them, simply because he's a very mobile quarterback, and he can actually run the 2 points in rather than be forced to throw in the pocket. So has been working really well for them. And next thing you know, when you get those 2-point converts early in the game, you get a very strong lead against your opponent. So if you get your first 2-point converts, you could be leading 16-6 instead of 14-6, which is already a 2-score lead for you. And that's what Mustangs have been doing to most teams, is they put the pressure on the other team, and then that's usually when a lot of players crack, and that's what's made the Mustangs success this season.
All right. So moving on now, we have the Cougars. Now, I had a chance in the winter season to see Kalen Trepanier. He was lights out, the best quarterback in the varsity division. Unfortunately, in the spring season, he suffered an injury after only 2 games, so he's been pretty much lost for the season. But stepping up in his place has been Olivier Gauthier, who struggled at least at first finding his feet as a quarterback, but as the season's gone on, he and the team have improved.
Well, you could be one of those to say it first is quarterback in FPF is very difficult. It's a very difficult position to play. Now, he didn't have any practice to help him with. He was supposed to play wanted to be one of the receivers and DB on the team, and then he was asked to play quarterback due to his quarterback being injured for as he was playing rugby. So now you get a guy that was playing receiver, signed up to play receiver, is forced to play quarterback, needs to learn the ropes really quickly as he's facing some of the best teams in the division. The first few weeks were really rough for him, obviously. It's a much different sport to play receiver than playing quarterback, but he's been improving a lot. He's much better now than he used to be, and the fact that the playoffs are come in and he had 6 or 7 weeks under his belt now gives him a much bigger chance to upset most of the teams they're going to play against. That might downsize just how good the Cougars could actually be.
All right, obviously, again, you being a quarterback in the adult division, how hard is it for me to spit that sentence out, but how hard is it to play that position, especially for someone like Gauthier who had no experience being a quarterback?
Well, it's very different. Their perspective on the game is because you have a rusher coming straight at you and you have to look at everybody at once and try to figure out who's open and who's not. So obviously the first few weeks you're a bit struggling with the rusher itself, trying to catch a snap, getting with the rusher, just getting the ball out. But now he's progressing in his reads, he's getting there, and their offense is getting much better also.
All right. And finally, to wrap up the varsity division, we have the defending champions, the Longhorns. Not having a season they may have wanted. And speaking of injury, they had an injury to their starting quarterback as well. For you, though, what has been the biggest thing that they could take from this season?
Well, again, they've been very injury prone. They had their quarterback go down with an injury, forced to come back after their backup quarterback was also injured. Now, they had a bye week last week. It was their bye week after the doubleheader. So hopefully the Longhorns will be able to come back into the playoffs with everybody 100% healthy and be able to play. If that actually happens, we have a chance to see Longhorns upset a few teams. There's a very strong team. It's very difficult for them when you only have 6 or 8 players, or you're struggling to find who's going to play where, and you have to take guys outside of their original position and put them somewhere else because you're missing guys. So hopefully for the playoffs they'll have a full roster ready to compete, and the Longhorns might upset 1 or 2 teams. All
right. So that is it for the regular season recap. Now we have the playoffs. You know what, Eagle? If you could, she just says P's asking Chapman, if you could get the Jim Mora playoffs, if you can get that on YouTube.
Playoffs?
You can get that sound clip. Hopefully, maybe not. Maybe not.
It's Eagle. He's gonna get it done.
Yeah, Eagle's a man.
He's not Chapman.
That is very true.
So you asked for Chapman back, and
our live audience disagrees.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's get.
I'm confused.
I'll start off by saying this: do not blame that game on the defense. Okay. I don't care who you play, whether it's a high school team, a junior college team, a college team, much less an NFL team. When you turn the ball over 5 times, 4 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, 3 others in field position to set up touchdowns, you ain't gonna beat anybody I just talked about. Anybody. All right? And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. You can't turn the ball over 5 times like that. Holy crap. I don't know who the hell we think we are when we do something like that. Unbelievable. 5 turnovers. One of them, we've thrown 4 interceptions for touchdowns this year. That might be an NFL record. That's pitiful. I mean, it's absolutely pitiful to perform like that. Pitiful. What's that? Playoffs? Let's talk about playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's a classic from 2001. I think they lost, was it 40-21 or something?
Yeah, the Colts lost to my 49ers. Nice.
Correct.
It's awesome. Thank you, sir. Playoffs? It's a teachable moment. If you guys commit 4 to 5 turnovers in the game. Yeah. Anyways, all right. So we're going to get to the playoff preview right now. We're going to start with the freshman division.
Yep.
Where we have the Panthers taking on the Tigers.
So they've played each other 4 times this season. Something in FPF, a tradition in FPF is we have a saying where if you play a team once during the season, it's much more difficult to beat them a second time in the playoffs.
Yep.
Now, in this case, they've played them 4 times already. The playoffs are looming. The Panthers are, as we mentioned, a very defensive unit. I don't think this is going to be one of those high-scoring games. The first team to get about 20 points should win this one. This is why the Tigers have a chance at winning this game, because they're not going to put up 30-35 points, but they're going to be able to get just by with about 20 points or so. And this is why they could shock the Panthers, simply due to the fact that their defense has been playing really great. If they could get either a pick 6 going on, or anybody on the Panthers just miss a tackle, the guy could just get going afterwards, they could turn the momentum in their favor. And the games are so short that you don't really have a chance to catch up after making a huge mistake. Yeah. And that's how the Tigers could actually get that win and move into the finals on Tuesday against the Musketeers.
All right, and speaking to your point, Simon, I mean, the first 2 matchups, the Panthers won 13-7 and 12-6.
Exactly, so. It's a 1 play difference, right? Yeah. All you need is an interception gone for 6, or 1 play. One player just misses his tackle, and next thing you know, the guy is all the way into the end zone. And so it could be just a split-second difference, and one team could have got the W instead of there.
There you go. All right, so that's for obviously the winner of that game will take on, as you mentioned, the Musketeers for the chance to be crowned freshman division champs.
Who's gonna win that game? Did you make a prediction? You guys make predictions?
No, we don't make predictions on the junior show.
Okay.
It's not Vegas. It's not. Let's bring back Chapman. Okay, so
it's like 6 times now we've been asking for Chapman.
The petition is being circulated. Don't worry.
Well, we're not the guy like the ice cream. It's a bit hot in here.
I like Chapman ice cream.
It's a bit hot in here.
It's pretty good. I had some today, actually. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. All right, so now we're going to jump forward to the sophomore division. And no ego, we don't make predictions in that show either. The first matchup we have is the Wildcats taking on the Fighting Irish. These two teams met in week 5, with the Fighting Irish getting the 18-7 victory. What will be key for you, Simon, with both sides coming into for that game?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the Wildcats started the season really hot as one of the favorites, and now they finished 4th seed, where the winner of that team will play the Lions on Sunday, actually. So the key for the Wildcats is to have a very eye-octane offense. We've talked about how the Fighting Irish defense is their strong point. They're not going to be able to put up a lot of points against the Wildcats, who have very good defensive players. It's going to come down to what can William Bradford do when the game's on the line. So you're going to have to use guys like Dean Fleming, who might have better matchups than, for instance, going for Jim Frenette against some of the Fighting Irish's best players. So we might see a bit of a different offense from the Wildcats, but they're going to have to resort to using different kind of receivers for them to move the ball.
Okay. And after that, we have the Yellow Jackets. The Hurricanes taking on the Dusters.
Yeah, the Hurricanes and Dusters. This is one they played last week, actually. Yeah. The Dusters won 36-6. So I'm hoping it's not one of those previews for the playoffs, because the playoffs are a whole different beast by themselves. we don't want to see any blowouts anyways, but this should be a very interesting game. They've played each other twice already, so it's the third time they're going to play each other. They know exactly what a team's going to do. I think it's going to come down to first of all, the pass rush from Brendan Urquhart against Adam Malinoff. Adam Malinoff struggles a little bit when he's forced out of the pocket, moving around. He's a very good quarterback, but when the rusher is in his face, it's tough to be a very good quarterback in any sort of football. So I think the defense decided for Hurricane starts with their pass rush, and he's one of their best players, so it's a good thing that he's the one that's going to have to put the pressure first.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this will be the rubber match. It will be the rubber match. As you mentioned last week, the Dusters won 36-6, but the Hurricanes beat the Dusters in week 3, 21-14.
Yep.
So this will definitely be the rubber match of all rubber matches. So moving forward now to the Varsity division, we have the Cougars going head-to-head against the Longhorns.
Yeah, so as we mentioned a bit earlier in the show when we talked about both teams, how their season has gone, both teams were plagued with injury where they both lost their quarterback, were forced to struggle to find a second quarterback, second string, third string. So this is the case where if the Longhorns quarterback Alex Yan can come back from injury, have some of his receivers also 100%, would really help the Longhorns to pull off the upset against the Cougars. But don't underestimate the Cougars. They have a lot of very good players like Ryan McGrath, who's been playing sensational all season long. So I think it's going to come down to the guys that we don't talk a lot about, like Alexis Dubois, like Olivier Gauthier as a quarterback, who might be able to move the ball around just with his legs or just buying time in the pocket to find other receivers. I think it's going to be one of the best matchups the whole weekend.
Well, definitely. I mean, if you look back at the regular season matchups, the Longhorns lost both games by a combined 7 points, losing 22-18 in week 2 and 24 to 21 in week 5. So definitely, it's going to be some tight games. So again, guys, just want to remind you guys that this week is the playoffs. The playoff action, starts this Thursday. So definitely, there's going to be a lot of games.
Starts Saturday,
pardon me.
Yeah.
I meant to say
First
Saturday,
games are
with the championship
Saturday.
game, pardon me. With the championship game coming up on Thursday. We also have, pardon me. Actually, that would be it. So, again, playoff action coming up. Playoffs. Pardon me. Scratch that off. So again, playoff action coming up this Saturday and this would it be Sunday too?
There's 2 games on Saturday, the first rounders. So we have the Cougars against the Longhorns and the Fighting Irish against the Wildcats on Saturday. And then the Sunday games will be the first seed, the Yellow Jackets, and the Lions taking on the winners of those games.
All right. So again, there should be some great action. I know Simon, you will be there.
Yes.
To do
I'll be there both days for the games. Also, should Rob Campana.
All right. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight to the FPF Junior Podcast and this whole entire season to the FPF Junior Podcast with the odd couple here, Simon and I, and as well with Rob Campana, with Chapman and the main man who's on Master Control tonight, Eagle, and Jamora as well. So again, thank you guys for tuning in this season. Should be some fantastic action this weekend, and once again, championship Thursday coming up next week at Stade Montréal. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great night, and playoffs are coming up this weekend. Please come out, support, and have a great time.